The ballroom was a glittering cage. Chandeliers dripped light like molten gold, shattering across marble floors in 1,000 tiny sparks. Laughter floated, sharp, expensive, like champagne fizzing in crystal flutes. The air was heavy with perfume, cigar smoke, and the weight of wealth. Emily stood at the edge, alone, her fingers wrapped tight around a glass she hadn't touched. Her dress, secondhand, emerald, frayed at the hem, clung to her like a secret she couldn't hide. She'd found it buried in a thrift shop bin, a relic of someone else's glory days. She'd come here on a whim, a crumpled invitation from a cousin who pitied her. Network, they'd said. You never know who you'll meet. But now, as eyes slid over her like she was invisible, the dress felt like a brand, poor, out of place, and then Richard Harrington, the king of this gilded jungle. His tuxedo was sharp as a razor, Rolex glinting like a predator's eye. He moved through the crowd like he owned every soul in the room. Because he did. In a way, real estate mogul. Billions in steel and glass. Yachts that cut through oceans like knives. Women who hung on his arm. Disposable as paper. His laugh boomed, drawing heads like moths to a flame. He zeroed in on a cluster by the bar, his entourage trailing, shadows in tailored suits. Emily shifted, trying to melt into the dark, but his gaze caught her. A smirk curled his lips. Slow, deliberate, he sauntered over, glass in hand, ice clinking like a warning. Well, well, he drawled, voice loud enough to slice through the chatter. What's this? A thrift store reject crashing my party? His eyes raked her dress, lingering on the worn seams, the faded green. Darling, did you rob a museum for that rag? Or is it your grandma's hand-me-down? Either way, it's screaming you don't belong. The room froze. Laughter erupted from his group, sharp as shattered glass. Emily's cheeks burned, heat flooding her face. She opened her mouth, but the words stuck jagged in her throat. It's just a dress, she whispered. Just a dress? Richard mocked, hand to his chest, feigning shock. Honey, in this world, your dress is your armor, and yours. It's got more holes than a beggar's coat. Go home. Sweetheart, leave the glamour to those who can afford it. Humiliation crashed over her, all suffocating. Tears stung her eyes, but she blinked them back. Spine stiffening like steel, the crowd parted as she turned, her heels secondhand. Pinching, clicking unevenly on the floor. Whispers chased her. Who was that? Poor thing. Richard's on fire tonight, outside. The night air slapped her face. City lights blurred through unshed tears. She hailed a cab. Hands trembling, the driver's eyes soft with pity. Rough night? He asked, voice low. You have no idea, she murmured. Sinking into the seat, the cab pulled away, the gala's glow fading in the rear view. But Richard's words clung to her, venom seeping deep in her tiny apartment, walls tight with the smell of instant noodles and stale coffee. Emily peeled off the dress. It pooled at her feet. A defeated flag. She stared at her reflection. Mousy hair, tired eyes. The face of someone who'd clawed through law school on grit and scholarships. But tonight, something sparked, a fire in the ashes of shame. He thinks he's untouchable, she whispered to the empty room. But everyone's got skeletons. Her laptop glowed on the table. Case files scattered. Pro bono work, her fights for the underdogs. The forgotten. She'd built her career on justice, one small win at a time. Now, that fire burned hotter. Days bled into nights. Emily dove into work. Richard's mockery her fuel. She took harder cases. Her arguments sharp as knives. Colleagues noticed. You're on fire. But she kept his face in her mind, a target. Across town. In a penthouse dripping with leather and scotch, Richard lounged, chuckling at the memory. That girl, he told his assistant. Like a deer in headlights, he dismissed her. Moving on to deals, shady ones, corners cut. Bribes slipped under tables. Power was his drug and he was hooked. But Emily, she dug quietly. His name surfaced in whispers. Lawsuits buried, workers silenced. She filed it away. A seed-taking route. Weeks later, an email arrived, anonymous. A tip about Harrington's latest tower. Violations, dangerous shortcuts. Her heart raced. This could be it, she breathed, fingers hovering over the keys. Late nights followed, coffee staining pages, documents piling up. She found threads, falsified permits, endangered workers. Each discovery tightened the knot in her chest. One stormy evening, as thunder rattled her windows, she found it. A memo. Proof of fraud. Got you, she whispered, a smile breaking through the exhaustion. But then a knock at her door, loud, urgent. Her breath caught. Who could it be? At this hour? The knock came again, sharper, like a fist demanding answers. Emily froze, the memo still glowing on her laptop screen. Her pulse hammered in her ears. She crossed the room, bare feet cold on the linoleum, and cracked the door. A woman stood there, soaked to the bone, rain dripping from her coat like tears. Her eyes were wide, wild with fear. A folder clutched tight to her chest. "Are you Emily Carter?" she asked, voice trembling. "The lawyer who helps people like me?" Emily nodded, stepping back. "Come in, what's wrong?" The woman, Maria, collapsed into a chair, water pooling at her feet. "My husband," she said, words spilling fast. "He worked for Harrington Enterprises. Fell from a scaffold last week. Dead. They called it an accident. But I know better. No safety nets, rushed deadlines," he warned them. "Emily." He told them it wasn't safe. Emily's stomach twisted. Richard's name again, like a ghost that wouldn't leave. She took the folder, pages trembling in her hands, photos spilled out, scaffolds dangling like broken bones. Rebar exposed, workers in helmets too thin to protect, emails. 2. Demands for overtime, threats to fire anyone who complained. Manuel begged them to fix it, Maria said. Voice cracking. He said the site was a death trap. They laughed, told him to shut up and work. Emily's jaw tightened. She saw Richard's smirk in her mind. That gala night. His voice dripping with scorn. This was bigger than her humiliation. This was blood. "I'll look into it," Emily said. Her voice steady now, "I promise." Maria's eyes glistened. "You don't know what you're up against, Harrington. He's got people everywhere. Cops, judges, they'll bury this." "Let them try," Emily said, a spark flaring in her chest. Maria left, her footsteps echoing down the hall. Emily spread the documents across her table, a map of corruption taking shape. Harrington's tower, his crown jewel, was a house of cards. She traced the memo's words. Cut costs. Ignore inspections. Get it done. Signed by Richard himself. Days blurred, Emily worked in a frenzy, cross-referencing Maria's evidence with her own findings. She called contacts, whistleblowers, union reps, a journalist who'd been sniffing around Harrington for years. Each call tightened the net, but danger crept closer. Her phone buzzed with unknown numbers, calls that hung up when she answered. A car lingered outside her building too long one night, its windows too dark to see through. She ignored the fear. Pushing harder, a pattern emerged. Harrington's projects riddled with violations, always escaped scrutiny. Money changed hands. Officials looked away, but this time, with Maria's evidence, Emily had a chance. Late one night, her phone lit up, a text, no name, "Stop digging. You'll regret it." Her heart stopped. She stared at the screen, fingers hovering, then defiant. She typed back, "Try me." The reply came instantly, "Check your door." Her head snapped up. The apartment was silent, save for the hum of her fridge. She crept to the door, heart pounding, and peered through the peephole. Nothing, just shadows in the hall. But when she opened the door, a single photo lay on the mat. Her at the gala. In that emerald dress, scrawled across it in red ink. Last warning. She slammed the door, locked it, her breath ragged. But the fear only sharpened her resolve. She wasn't just fighting for Maria now, or for herself. It was for every worker crushed under Harrington's greed. Every voice silenced. Back at her desk, she pulled up court records. Building a case brick by brick, she found others, more families. More accidents swept under rugs. Her phone rang again. Another unknown number. She let it go to voicemail, a man's voice, low and cold. "You're making enemies. Ms. Carter. Big ones." Let them come, she was ready. But the next morning, a new email arrived, from a law firm she'd never heard of. Subject: cease and desist. Harrington's legal team was circling. Shark smelling blood. Her hands shook as she opened it. But her eyes burned with defiance. They wanted a fight. They'd get one, but what came next? Even she couldn't predict. The email was a blade, cold and precise, demanding Emily halt her investigation or face ruin. Harrington's lawyers were legends, a pack of wolves in Armani suits, known for shredding opponents before they ever saw a courtroom. "Cease and desist," the letter read, "or we'll bury you in litigation you can't afford." Emily's apartment felt smaller that morning, the walls pressing in as she read the words again. Her coffee sat cold, touched. She could stop now, walk away, keep her quiet life, her pro bono cases, her ramen-fueled nights. But then she saw Maria's folder on the table, photos of twisted scaffolding, a widow's tear-streaked face, and Richard's smirk, etched in her memory. No, she wouldn't bend. Emily threw herself into the case with a fury. She reached out to allies, a scrappy legal aid group, a retired judge who hated Harrington's kind, a hacker friend who owed her a favor. Together, they dug deeper, unearthing more blueprints doctored to hide flaws. Inspectors paid off in cash-stuffed envelopes. Every piece was a weapon. But the clock was ticking. Harrington's threats grew bolder. Her mailbox was stuffed with legal notices, each one thicker than the last. Her landlord called, voice nervous. "Some guy came by, asking about you, didn't look friendly." Emily's heart raced. But she kept working, her tiny apartment a war room of papers and post-its. One evening, she met Maria at a diner, neon lights buzzing overhead. Maria slid a USB drive across the table, her hands shaking. "Manuel kept backups," she whispered. "Recordings he taped the foreman admitting they skipped safety checks." Emily's breath caught. This was dynamite, enough to blow Harrington's empire apart. But as they left, a black SUV idled across the street, its engine a low growl. Maria grabbed Emily's arm. "That's them," she hissed. "They've been following me." Emily's skin prickled. "Get home safe," she said, voice low. "I'll handle this." Back in her apartment, she listened to the recordings. The foreman's voice was gruff, careless. "Harrington says cut corners. We cut corners. Nobody checks. Money talks." Emily's hands clenched. This was it, the key to the courtroom. She filed the lawsuit the next day, naming Harrington Enterprises directly. The news spread like wildfire. Headlines screamed, "Billionaire tycoon faces fraud allegations. Workers' death sparks legal battle." Richard's face was everywhere. His smirk gone, replaced by a scowl. But he fought back. His lawyers flooded the court with motions, delaying, obstructing, Emily's inbox filled with threats, some veiled. Some blatant. One night her car's tires were slashed. Another, her office window was smashed, a brick left on her desk with a note. "Back off." She didn't. She couldn't. Not when she saw Maria's face, or thought of Manuel plummeting from that scaffold. The trial date loomed. Emily prepared relentlessly, rehearsing arguments, memorizing evidence. Her colleagues warned her, Harrington's untouchable, his lawyers will eat you alive. But she saw weakness in their bravado, a crack in the armor. Harrington was sloppy, arrogant. He'd left a trail. The night before the trial, she sat at her kitchen table, the emerald dress hanging in her closet like a ghost. She hadn't worn it since the gala, but its memory fueled her. Richard had mocked her, humiliated her. Tomorrow, she'd face him again, not as a nobody in a thrift store dress, but as the woman who'd bring him down. But then, her phone rang, a familiar voice, Richard himself. "Ms. Carter," he said. "Smooth as silk, I admire your spirit, but you're out of your depth. Drop this now, and I'll make it worth your while. A job, money, name your price." Emily's grip tightened on the phone. Her voice was ice. "You don't get it, do you? This isn't about me, it's about justice," he chuckled, low and venomous. "Then I'll see you in court. Sweetheart, wear something nice." Emily's heart pounded. She set the phone down. Hands steady now. The trial was tomorrow, and Richard Harrington had no idea what was coming. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and nervous sweat. Emily stood at the plaintiff's table, her suit crisp but simple, bought on clearance. No emerald dress today, just her, armed with truth, across the room. Richard Harrington sat flanked by his legal wolves, his eyes locked on her, no smirk now, just a cold, calculating stare. The judge's voice cut through the hum. "Ms. Carter, your opening statement." Emily took a breath, her voice steady, clear, like a bell ringing in the silence. "Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about greed, about a man who built an empire on lies, cutting corners that cost lives. Manuel Alvarez died because Richard Harrington valued profit over people. Today, we'll prove it." She laid out the evidence, piece by damning piece, the memo, the recordings, Maria's testimony, her voice breaking as she spoke of Manuel's last days. The jury leaned forward, eyes wide, some jotting notes. Richard's lawyers objected, their voices sharp, but Emily countered, her arguments like arrows finding their mark. Harrington took the stand. His charm dialed to 11. He denied everything. His voice smooth as glass. "Accidents happen. Construction is dangerous. I run a clean business." But Emily saw the jury's doubt, the way their eyes flicked to the photos of crumbling scaffolds. Then she played the recording. The foreman's voice filled the courtroom. "Harrington says cut corners." "We cut corners." Gasps rippled through the room. Richard's face tightened, a crack in his mask. Cross-examination was brutal. Emily pressed him, her questions relentless. "Did you approve those cost cuts? Did you know about the safety violations? Why did you ignore Manuel's warnings?" Richard squirmed, his answers slippery, but the jury saw it. The sweat on his brow, the flicker of panic. The trial stretched over days. Harrington's team fought dirty, discrediting witnesses, leaking lies to the press. Emily's name was dragged through the mud. Ambitious lawyer chasing fame, obsessed with revenge. But she kept going, fueled by Maria's quiet strength, by the memory of that gala night. One evening, outside the courthouse, a reporter cornered her. "Why take on Harrington? You're just one person." Emily paused, then looked into the camera. "Because someone has to, for Manuel, for all of them." The final day loomed. Emily's closing argument was her last chance. She stood, heart pounding, and faced the jury. "You've seen the evidence, the lies, the blood on his hands. Richard Harrington thought he could buy his way out of this, but justice isn't for sale." She glanced at Maria, sitting in the gallery, eyes shining with hope. "This is for her," Emily said, "for Manuel, for every worker who trusted him and paid the price." The jury deliberated for hours. Emily waited outside, pacing, her cheap heels scuffing the floor. Maria sat beside her, silent, their hands clasped. The air was thick with anticipation. Every creak of the courthouse doors a jolt. The jury returned. The foreman stood. Voice steady. We find the defendant, Harrington Enterprises, liable for negligence and fraud. Maria sobbed. Clinging to Emily, the courtroom erupted. Reporters scrambling. Harrington's lawyers shouting. Richard himself sat frozen, his empire crumbling in real time. Emily looked at him, their eyes meeting across the chaos. No words were needed. She'd done it, but as she left the courthouse, a man in a dark coat approached, his face half hidden. Ms. Carter, he said, voice low, this isn't over. The courthouse steps were cold under Emily's feet, the city's pulse thrumming in the distance. The man's words echoed, this isn't over. She turned, but he was gone, swallowed by the crowd. Her victory felt fragile, like a flame flickering in the wind. She pushed it aside. Maria waited nearby, her face lit with gratitude. You gave us justice, she said, voice thick with tears. Manuel can rest now. Emily hugged her, the weight of the trial lifting. If only for a moment. It's not just me, she said. It's all of us, you the others who spoke up. That night, Emily returned to her apartment, the silence unfamiliar after weeks of chaos. She opened her closet, the emerald dress hanging there. Still frayed, still hers. She touched it, smiling faintly. It wasn't armor. Richard was wrong about that. Her strength came from within, from every late night, every doubt she'd pushed through, every voice she'd amplified. The news exploded. Harrington's stock plummeted. His projects halted. Whistleblowers came forward. More lawsuits piling up. Emily's phone buzzed with offers. Big firms. TV interviews. She turned them down. This wasn't about fame. It was about the next Maria, the next Manuel. Weeks later, she got a call. Another worker, another accident. Another company thinking it could hide. Emily smiled. Already reaching for her laptop. The fight wasn't over. It never would be. She thought of Richard, his empire cracking, his smirk erased. She'd seen him in court, not as a king, but as a man, flawed, fallible, brought low by a woman in a second-hand dress. Emily stepped onto her balcony, city lights sprawling below. The wind carried the scent of rain, of new beginnings. She closed her eyes, letting the moment sink in. This was her armor, not the dress, not the law, but the fire inside her. And it would burn on,